Thank you so much for welcoming me to your summit. I am honored for this life-changing opportunity to visit Brooklyn and be among all of you library giants. Thank you to SLJ for believing in me, my kids, and our library. I would not be here today without my family, my principal who nominated me, and the teachers and students of Northern Middle. They all make the library a very magical space. And today, I would like to share with you how working in a school library has changed and inspired movement, allowing my students to move about the library, the freedom to research and read what moves them, and to provide opportunities for the students to become the movers and the shakers. I have always loved everything about being a librarian. There's not a day that goes by that I don't remind myself how fortunate I am, and that unconventional moves brought me to a very rewarding profession, the one that we share. I'm a kid born in Chicago, and I grew up in Florida, and I made a spontaneous move to go to school in Baltimore, and that is where I met my life partner, Brian. We started out with no money, entry-level jobs, but we were the first in our families to have college degrees. We were moving forward for our little family, and we bought what we could afford, and that was a boarded-up row home in Baltimore. We renovated and created a home, and we saw it as a blank canvas, a new beginning. It was then that I learned that there was a shortage of school librarians, and I desperately needed a job. And I was offered a cohort position at Towson University to earn a master's degree while working as an elementary librarian. And that is how school librarianship found me in my way of my life, and how I discovered my tribe. I have worked in 3 very different schools, a Title I elementary school, an arts and science magnet school, and now I'm in a community rural school. But one thing remains the same. They all need a library, and they all need an advocate, a certified librarian that can provide an engaging space for students to explore. So regardless of my location or my students' demographics, I will be their advocate. After 12 years of working in Baltimore County, I was offered a very unique position to be the first and only media specialist at Northern Middle School. This is what the Department of Ed would consider very rural remote, very different from here. It would provide me an amazing opportunity. When I first saw the space, there was nothing on the walls or counters. It was very sterile, silent. Another blank canvas. I was warned that it's difficult to work and live in a small community, very tight-knit. I know what you're thinking. I had to have a lot of moxie to make this move. But I've been pleasantly surprised at how welcoming everyone has been to my family. The key is to present yourself as an outlier and not an outsider. This is the first time I've had the opportunity to live in the community that I work, and I work with my husband, which has been very rewarding. Yes, we took pay cuts. But what we lose in salary, we make up for in time. Time to devote to our family, the school library, and hobby farm. My family now spends 2+ hours a day together that we used to spend commuting in cars. I have been inspired by many librarians who have also made a move because of budget cuts or lack of support for their program, or maybe they just simply are always on the move. Tamiko Brown, a librarian I greatly admire, shared that she pursued a second master's degree and applied to become an administrator, but was never selected. So she moved to a new school library, and she's your 2017 Librarian of the Year. Mr. Shu, a librarian who is always on the move, shares his love of reading and travels to see children 300 days out of the year. Susan Mongold, a district librarian who found herself out of work, this led her to land a job with the new LeBron James I Promise School. What a good move. And I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for my family's move. If you had the opportunity to start a program from scratch, would you take the leap? If you didn't, it would just remain the sterile space with no one there for the kids. I may need to make another move soon because of budget cuts and consolidations, and that's okay. because I'll just go to a different library door and make what looks like a possible end and turn it into a great beginning. Last week, I attended MASL, the Maryland School Librarian Conference, and there's so many wonderful Maryland people here today. Raise your hand if you're from Maryland. Yes, yeah. I was so happy to meet Min Lei and read his book, Drawn Together. It reminded me how books always have perfect timing, how they come into your life just when you need them to. This book will leave you speechless. It also reminded me of a very special collaboration I had with Miss Coronel, an ELL teacher in Baltimore. Miss Coronel and I had great empathy for our students. She was from the Philippines and arrived in Baltimore as a teenager, and I am the daughter of an immigrant. Together we formed a writing club for our students to share stories of their heritage and their journeys to the United States. We invited students who face similar challenges throughout the school. Our club would eventually create Don't Judge This Book, a simple but powerful circular story that would share the harsh judgments that students face and the expectations they feel they fail to meet. One of our students, the illustrator, had recently arrived from China, and what she could not say in English, she expressed in her artwork, and she expressed everyone so vividly. Her personal entry expressed that she was her parents' child, even though she was not a son. The students entered the Kids Are Authors contest and received $500 to support their classroom library. This book moved me, and it mattered. It was the experience that I'm always chasing for my students. It gave me the courage to present and share my students' work and set goals for them to compete on state and even national levels. Challenges that provide students the recognition that they can all earn. They're all capable. The best way for me to advocate for school libraries and certified school librarians is to share what I can do and what they can do if they're provided with one. I am most proud of my students' accomplishments. They include 2 ALA Video Awards, 5 state finalists for the Library of Congress's Letters About Literature, state qualifiers for robotics teams, Maryland History Day, and our first Scholastic Gold Key winner in our region. I am grateful for the kid-lit authors like Debbie Levy, who will provide a free Skype session and take time to respond, retweet, or like a post for my students enjoying books. A special thank you to my friend Chris Grabenstein for his advocacy and support. I follow 5,000 school librarians and authors on Twitter. Many of you are in this room. It is here that I've connected with Lucas Maxwell, the charter librarian in London, and Sarah Betteridge, the awesome Aussie librarian. We've collaborated with our students on postcard pen pals, flip grids, Padlets, sharing about our favorite books, the weather, our towns. And that's what brought us to Lego Travel Buddy. This is where my students create a simple minifig and send it to an educator or a classroom abroad. This is an inexpensive and engaging way for us to connect. It's our take on Flat Stanley. My students track the mileage and get to meet people from all over the world. Engagement ranges from lessons about the 5 themes of geography to mystery flip grids, or to ask, what in the world are you reading? Miss Cornell, who I mentioned earlier, retired to the beautiful shores of Hawaii. She is now a world traveler, and she is our most active contributor. Her Lego travel buddy is Heohele, which is Hawaiian for travel buddy. Together, they've logged 30,000 miles around the globe, and they're planning an African safari. Newest collaborators include Cassie Lee and her students from the Chinese American School in San Francisco. And most recently, one arrived in Illinois and will be going with Todd Burleson to Dubai to the ALA International Conference. This is an authentic way for 11-year-olds to make global connections and be digital citizens. If you would like more ways to provide real-world experiences, I highly recommend reading the book by Dr. Kristen Mattson, Digital Citizenship in Action. Digital Citizenship in Action and teaching rural students gives them exposure to a world that they hopefully will explore in their futures. 24% of students in America attend rural schools, and over half of them are below the poverty level. Rural students and schools tend to receive half the funding compared to big districts. No one knows that better than me. The majority of them will need to move to large cities and towns in order to compete. And after a recent lesson with my 7th graders, we researched how science fiction can predict the future for better or for worse. We had a lively discussion about robots and the potential for them to take over the world, and I admitted my profound fear and respect for robotics, even as a robotics coach. I recently dreaded reading this article from Vice, fearful for what the future of librarians is. But even today's most brilliant machines have limitations. We need humans for creativity, innovation, and inspiration, skills that will make our kids employable in the future. And I think the best place for those skills to be learned is your school library. This is where we model empathy, and this is where we encourage human connections and read diverse books. This is why I'm always cautious to keep a healthy balance on the arts and humanities while supporting STEM initiatives. Every time our little Lego team is recognized for something, it's usually teamwork or creative ideas, helping people or animals. We do not score the most points for our robot missions, but we are credited for innovative design. So even in a robot game, the little humans win. I am grateful for those who have provided funding sources for me, and I am proud of our homegrown collection. Thanks to James Patterson and Scholastic, I can now provide great exposure to new titles, graphic novels, and series that my students devour. Together, we have read books like Love That Dog, Long Way Down, House of Robots, The Crossover, Soldier Song, Refugee, and soon we will read Hey Kiddo. While attending ALA Advocacy Bootcamp, I learned that librarians are the second most trusted professionals in the world. Hopefully someone in the medical field is one. Librarians might not be experts in all literacies, but they certainly know how to network and find resources. I have had the honor of being my own children's middle school librarian. My oldest son, Elliot, is a musician, and he reads and writes music. He wants to pursue a degree in mathematics and computer science. My youngest, Abe, is a coder and a maker, and he wants you all to know he's a Lego master builder. Their literacies are musical, mathematical, computational, spatial. Regardless if I'm proficient in those literacies, I know that my students' languages and literacies are different, and we should let them lead us, teach us, so we can support projects in the library that celebrate their superpowers. As librarians, we combined a love of literature, and we can embrace their literacies at the same time. There are many anniversaries to celebrate this year. Harry Potter turns 20, Matilda 30. Both NASA and Lego are celebrating their 60th year, all very important figures in kidlit and innovation that inspire our children. But we must protect kids from the umbrages of the world and he who must not be named. So, I hope to share a sense of urgency with other librarians because a library can host and provide an infinite amount of learning experiences. A librarian's appetite for learning should be insatiable, always searching out new visitors, connections, resources, experiences, and funding. This is where we can advocate for our greatest resource, each other. A library can never be defined as one thing. It's a different feeling and serves a different purpose for everyone, always changing, evolving, and moving us. So before I go, I would really love to make a connection with someone here in this room. I have 2 Lego travel buddies for my students, and they would love you to share their world with them. I'm excited to go back to my library and tell them all about Brooklyn. So if you would like to connect with us, please reach out.